on Vladimir Putin and his ties to Russian companies, the Russian mafia, or we don't know because Donald Trump won't share his tax returns with us, so we get a glimpse at just how broad the tentacles go. But let me tell you these things, not to scare you, but to bring the concerns of these generals into focus for you. Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin are a lot alike. They're narcissistic, they're egomaniacs, they're control freaks, they like to dominate people, they like to bully people, they want to be in charge. What if they've already decided to be partners? Let's say Donald Trump gets elected president. Donald Trump has already said that the generals we have in place now are lousy generals. He's going to replace them. He came up with a list of military people that support him. And they're people that were on the fringes of the military. They were the ones that every time there was a crisis wanted to go to war, wanted to throw bombs. They were the people, they weren't the calm heads in the room when things were being talked about. So let's say first thing Donald Trump does as president is get rid of the generals we've got and put these warmonger types in charge. Okay? Let's say the second thing Donald Trump does is say, we're not going to defend NATO. We're going to back off from our commitment to NATO. We're taking our troops and our hardware out of Europe. That opens the door for Vladimir Putin to take over Eastern and, for all intents and purposes, take over Europe. And if these guys are in partnership with each other, that's probably okay. In gratitude, Vladimir Putin will probably volunteer troops for Trump's next project. But instead of building a wall, he will invade Mexico. We'll just take the place over. And the U.S. troops and Russian troops working together will clean that place out. And let's say Donald Trump is so grateful to his partner and his buddy that he says, why don't you just bring some of your troops over and station them here in the Western Hemisphere in Mexico to kind of police the place and keep people in line. And then let's say that's not good enough for Donald and Putin. Let's just say the next thing they decide is that they're going to turn the military might of the United States against Saudi Arabia and Iran and Iraq and take over the oil fields and plunder the riches of those countries. Now, at some point, Congress will probably say, hey, wait, whoa, 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 whoa. Well, you can't do that. At that point, Donald Trump sends his military guys to the Capitol building and cleans out Congress and declares himself the dictator, the emperor, the whatever name he calls himself. And let's say some of the military revolts against that. And Vladimir says, oh, don't worry about it, we got your back. We'll help you, Donald. We'll help you take over the United States. Then you can be like me. Now that sounds like science fiction. That sounds unbelievable to those of us who live in this country. It also sounded unbelievable to Russians when Stalin took over. It also sounded unbelievable to Germans when Hitler took over. It also sounded unbelievable to people in Libya when Muammar Gaddafi took over. It has happened to democracies throughout history that one egomaniac who manages to get the military behind him to take over whole nations and create dictatorships. It's happened in our hemisphere with Fidel Castro. What if the real sinister conspiracy is already happening behind our back? That's why these military people are worried, folks. Because the threat to democracy is real when you have a candidate who does not respect the rights and freedoms of the people in this country. He doesn't respect religious freedom. He doesn't respect the rights of individuals based on color, based on sexual orientation, you name it. And he's appealing to the people in this country who think that way. And that's how he got the nomination for the Republican Party. Like I said, I don't want to scare you with this. I just want to point out how important it is. It is that important. I've said it many times to any of you that would listen to me, that this is the screwiest, but also the most important election in my lifetime. We have never seen anything like this in our lifetime. We have never had to question whether our leaders, whether our candidates for president on either party had the best interests of this nation at heart. I question that with Donald Trump. I honestly do. It's that important. We need to vote and make sure that we don't have to live the scenario I just laid out. I don't want to be right about this. And it's not a conspiracy theory. It's what could happen. Think about that. Two guys who decide they want to run the world. They're kindred spirits. Why in the world would the Russians hack American voting sites, websites in different states, in key states? Why would the Russians be interested in that? Why would the Russians be interested in hacking the computers of the Democratic National Committee? Is this Vladimir's way of making sure his buddy Donald is beholden to him after the election? I don't know. I wish I was more trusting. And that's the nature of we Iowans. We're loving, trusting people. But it's something to think about, folks. I don't want to put a damper on this evening because we just heard an inspirational message from our next congressman for this district. If you get out and vote. That's what it's about from here till November. Getting your friends, Democrats, Republicans, and independents to vote for people with decency, with a backbone, and who will fight for you, the working people of America and this district. That's what it's about, folks, and we all need to show up. With that, this is probably our last fundraiser before November 8th. It won't be the last time we get together to make phone calls or knock on doors or or meet candidates coming through. But don't be afraid to be a Democrat. Don't be afraid to talk to your neighbors. Don't be afraid to ask your Republican friends what the Republican Party has done for them for the last 15 years. If they're not a millionaire and billionaire, there is nothing that they've done. Let's be proud, let's be loud, let's win in November. Thank you very much for being here.